Good Saturday morning, everyone. Today on Perspectives, we talk with the new president of the University of South Alabama, Joe Bonner. Bonner has become the fourth president of the university, which in its relatively short history of nearly 60 years has become an institution which officials say has become not only the region's dominant force in higher education, but has transformed education, health care, the economy, and quality of life here on the Gulf Coast. Joe Bonner is certainly no stranger to this section of Alabama. For more than a decade, according to his resume on the USA website, Bonner represented Alabama's 1st District in the U.S. House of Representatives. He was also first elected back in November 2nd of 2002 and was re-elected 5 additional terms. Now, after leaving Congress, Bonner served as Vice Chancellor for Economic Development at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And before being chosen as the president of South Alabama, he was working as the chief of staff to Alabama Governor Kay Ivey. He joined her administration back in December of 2018 as the governor's senior advisor. The university he will be leading as president has rapidly taken its place in Alabama, both in academics and medical research. According to university officials, South Alabama enrolls approximately 15,000 students and has awarded more than 90,000 degrees in its 58-year history. Officials say that USA has become an economic driver for the central Gulf Coast with an annual economic impact exceeding $3 billion. President Bonner's resume is impressive, and according to the University of South Alabama's website, among his numerous awards and honors includes a 2020 induction into the Alabama Academy of Honor, which is the state's premier recognition of 100 living Alabamians for their outstanding accomplishments and service. In 2016, the Business Council of Alabama created the inaugural Congressman Joe Bonner Spirit of Leadership Award and honored him as the first recipient. And now comes a major challenge for the former congressman who has dedicated his life to public service. Joe Bonner is now president of a university that has become not only an economic juggernaut, but an institution vital to the Gulf Coast and beyond. A talk with USA's new president as Perspectives continues after this quick break. A very special guest this morning, the new president of the University of South Alabama, Joe Bonner. And President Bonner, we welcome you to Perspectives this morning. Of course, you have a familiar face to everyone here in this part of the state. And of course, now with your resume expanding the last 10, 15 years, you've also become well known around the state of Alabama as well. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives today.
Good morning, Eric. It's such an honor to be back with you. New president, but old face, as you say, and old friends with you and the great team you got here at WALA. I'm honored to be back on your program and especially grateful for this incredible opportunity I've got to be a part of the University of South Alabama, a university that has been a part of our life, my family and me for many years, certainly the life of this community for more than 58 years. But it is a real pleasure to come into the studio today with you and be a part of the amazing stories that are taking place at South Alabama, and I'm grateful for the chance to spend a few minutes with you this morning.
We're so glad to have you. We're going to talk about some of those as well as, let's start out first, talk about your resume is extremely impressive, but what on there you think really stood out to those members of the Board of Trustees who are looking for a new president at this day and time?
Well, it's a different resume, I'll have to acknowledge, and I said that at the outset. I'm a non-traditional university president, although nationally more and more universities are looking outside of the traditional academic ladder that a lot of people spend their lifetime climbing to become a university president. But if we'd been together this time last year, I would not be talking to you about what the University of South Alabama is doing and where we might be going in the future, because this is not something that I prepared for or spent a lot of time thinking about. When Dr. Waldrop announced his plans to retire last April, I actually had 2 or 3 friends on the very first day of his announcement reach out to me and say, you ought to put your name in the hat. And initially I laughed. My sister spent her lifetime in higher education.
Yes.
And did pretty well with it. We were real proud of what Judy was able to accomplish, but this was not something that I had chosen. I made my life in public service, but in a different way, as you know, in the political arena and in government service. So the more people who reached out to me, many of whom some were alumni, some faculty members. I had even a few students who reached out and said, I'd really like for you to be the one to hand me my diploma. So the more I thought about it, the more I realized this is my home. South Alabama is where I grew up. It's where I've spent 99% of my life in terms of serving is this area. And I've seen throughout my time when I worked with Congressman Callahan and also in my own time in Congress for 6 terms, how intertwined the University of South Alabama is with this region, not just with Mobile and Baldwin counties, but really with the entire Gulf Coast region. So the answer to your question is I wasn't necessarily looking to make this a career change, but the search committee, they had about 145 applicants, I believe, originally. That went down to about 8. And then after it got down to the final 3, that's when I realized that I might actually have a legitimate shot at this. So I don't know. I know the board didn't choose me because of my good looks or my charm, but I would hope that they would see that they would have seen, and I believe they did see, a lifetime of service, a true dedication of heart and soul to this region. And a love for this university, what it has meant to this region of Alabama and the Gulf Coast, and what it's going to mean in the future.
I think about one of the interviews that we did years ago while you were in the congressional office, and one of the things I remember from that made me also think of former President Gordon Moulton, who is now deceased, and he was an ordinary guy coming out of rural Georgia, not far from my hometown, in fact, and you coming from Camden in the early days of your development in life, a small town guy in Alabama. Any similarities there with you and former President Moulton?
Well, I hope that when this chapter of my career is completed, I hope that people will see a direct parallel with what President Moulton and his wonderful wife Jerry, that they'll see a little bit of Janae and Joe Bonner in what Jerry and Gordon Moulton did. South's only had, up until me, 3 previous presidents. And so Dr. Whidden, I had the pleasure of getting to know him, working with him as a young staffer when I was working with Congressman Callahan. Fred Whidden was a bold, visionary leader who was somewhat, had an audacious spirit about him back in the early 1960s to think that Mobile would develop our own university. And in fact, we did. And so Dr. Whidden's leadership for decades really took South from an idea and a dream to reality. And then President Moulton comes along. He had been a part, he was hired, you're right, he was a non-traditional as well. He didn't have a PhD, nor do I. But he had a heart of service, and he had a love that he and Jerry really transformed the University of South Alabama. I had a graduate call me right after my appointment, and he said, Joe, he said, I was in the first class that graduated. And he said, the building your office is in, I think that was my math classroom. And he said it was just a bunch of red clay cars would get stuck. But you take what Dr. Whidden dreamed of, you take what President Moulton built and enhanced, and then the last 6 years with Dr. Waldrop. I mean, he was a nationally recognized researcher. He helped take our research, the part of the University of South Alabama's mission to the next level. So I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants who helped lay the foundation for an amazing university, and my goal is to work to make it even better.
We've got about a minute left in this first segment. When you say taking it to the next level, give us a few points of what that means for South Alabama.
Well, I promised everyone during the interview process that I'm going to spend the next several months getting out on the campus. I think I know it pretty well, but I really want to understand what the faculty are looking to do, what the students aspire for, what our alumni, almost 90,000 alumni that are so proud of that USA education and experience. I want to understand where they want to go, but clearly we're going to grow the enrollment. We're going to make sure that the students who come stay and graduate, and we're going to do everything we can to bring external resources, financial dollars from Washington as well as from Montgomery, and here at home too, people to invest in their university. We want to make the University of South Alabama the flagship of the Gulf Coast, and I think we've got all the ingredients lined up to do just that.
When we come back, we're going to talk more about some of those points, and especially had a comment by South Alabama alumni saying that they definitely wanted to see you bring that funding in, because he says that some people feel like the redheaded stepchild down here, where you've got the big three, of course, and now he said that the University of Alabama Huntsville seems to be trying to nudge us out of the way, so to speak. So we'll talk about that as well as some of the other plans you have for South Alabama when we come back from our quick break. Our very special guest this morning, the new president of South Alabama, Joe Bonner, a familiar face to all of us here in South Alabama. We'll be talking more in just a moment here on Perspectives. Welcome back to Perspectives. Our very special guest this morning, the new president of South Alabama, Joe Bonner. And we're talking about some of the plans that he has to take South Alabama to the next level. We were talking about the funding issue and making sure that South Alabama is at the I guess you say a good seat at the table when that funding is spread around to the top schools in the state. How do you make that happen?
Well, there's no one magic button that you press or one recipe to guarantee success, but it starts with building relationships, and it starts with coming to that table with something to offer, something that's not only going to benefit the university, but more importantly, something that's going to benefit the region, the state, and I believe the nation and the world. And we've got researchers who are doing just that, working to change and make for the better things that we sometimes take for granted. So first of all, I'm pleased to say that when I worked with Congressman Callahan, Sonny was able to get one of the first federal investments for the, at that time, new Mitchell Cancer Institute, a piece of equipment that literally put the new Cancer Institute that was a part of USA, that was eventually named for the Mitchell family that's done so much with this university and this community. He got the first appropriation, federal appropriation for that. More recently, just in the last year and a half, Governor Ivey dedicated $50 million of a state bond issue for the university's new medical school that we're getting ready to start construction on. Now think about that. This is the first time in the 58-year history of the university that the University of South Alabama got the same level of appropriation that the University of Alabama and Auburn University got.
Yes.
So we're moving in the right direction. And of course, when I was in Congress, I was grateful for the opportunity to help everything from the JAG tram that takes our students back and forth to some other creative programs. And that was at a time when we were not doing congressional earmarks. So we've got a great story to tell. We've got a lot of partners. Senator Shelby has been a tremendous ally. Congressman Jerry Carl, even though he's new, he has already pledged his full commitment to this university. Senator Tuberville, we've got a lot of friends in Washington, and fortunately I have a few up there myself. So one of the things I told the board when I was in the final interviewing stages, I said, you know, a new president will probably spend a lot of time going out and introducing himself to the governor, to the mayor, to the senators. Fortunately, those are all friends of mine, so I won't be going talking about me. I'll be going to talk about what we're doing and what we can do with additional resources. We also have just come out of the largest capital campaign drive in the history history of the university. And we're seeing an amazing number of alumni that are giving. Some are just giving a few $100s, but they've never given anything previously to that. So Margaret Sullivan is our Vice President for Advancement. She would love a phone call right now if you got listeners that would like to renew their alumni membership. Or we also want to reconnect with our business community. Eric, you know this as well as anyone. The economic diversity in South Alabama, the region, is at an all-time high. We're not only making steel, but we're assembling airplanes and putting ships in the waters that are going to defend our country for the foreseeable future. So we've got a lot of companies that we need to make sure that when a student wants to come to South Alabama, that they have a direct pipeline to getting a world-class education and then going in and becoming a part of a contributor to society. So we want our education and our diploma to mean something in terms of a young person's future, their dreams, their aspirations. And so I don't think it's going to be as hard as some people believe. We got a great story to tell. We just got to go out and tell it.
Makes a difference in who's sharing that message, definitely. And I think it's a added benefit for you to have had the relationship in the offices there at the University of Alabama, and of course taking that over to working with the governor. It really makes a difference. When I heard that the governor was going to bring the keynote at the graduation, I said that's definitely a plus there. Now talk about research and the importance of that to our area and the role that South Alabama plays in that. What does that mean to this part of the state?
It's incredibly important. Right now we've got researchers that are working to discover everything from a cure to cancer and certainly advanced procedures so that if you have cancer, you've got a much better chance of survival, to something that Dr. Sean Powers, I quote this often because here on the Gulf Coast we love seafood, and he and his predecessor, Dr. Bob Shipp, did enormous work in the area of red snapper. Think about, it wasn't that many years ago when you could maybe go out and catch one red snapper on a fishing trip. They led the national effort on that, and recently Dr. Powers and his team got a grant of I think $15–16 million to lead research on amberjack. So we've got so many talented researchers, and the research component at the University of South Alabama, when you factor the healthcare system, USA Health is an incredible story in and of itself. But when you factor USA Health with the campus, it's between $85 and $100 million impact a year. That's on top of the other many ways where we're making a difference. We've got almost 8,500 employees, largest employer in this region. We've got over $1.2 billion in economic impact every year. Just in salaries and benefits, over $580 million. And every day, the University of South Alabama or USA Health, we're kicking back about $3.5 million into the local economy. So
that makes a
we're
difference.
a pretty big player,
Yes.
and we're real proud to play that role.
Well, let's throw this in here as we get too close to our ending time. The strategic plan for 2022, any initial thoughts on that from you?
Well, I'm looking forward to getting my sleeves rolled up and getting engaged in it full bore. The faculty was nice enough to make the decision. They've been working on it for a year and a half, 2 years, but they wanted to let the new president have a chance to look at it, no matter who the new president was. So I'm meeting with the faculty senate later today. I know we're taping on a different day than this will air, but I'm meeting with our faculty senate leadership today. I've been meeting with our interim provost and the academic affairs team. I'm looking forward to the ideas they've got, and that's what I said at the outset. I want to understand where the faculty and the staff, the students and the alumni want to take this university, and then I want to be full bore involved in helping to take it to the next level.
I wish Sonny was still here with us to see what is in store for you as well as the university here in the next few years. He indeed loved the area, the university in this part of the state, and I enjoyed seeing you all work together before you ended up becoming our representative as well.
Well, he was a very special man to me. He was like a father, and South was his university, and it is now my university, and I'm so proud to share it with so many people who love it head and realize what this university means, not only to our area of the world, but to the world in large.
We've got about 30 seconds left. Can you sum up what we should be expecting to see here in the next few years, the South Alabama story, in just a few words?
Eric, we're just going to continue to build, we're going to continue to get better, and we're going to continue to make a positive difference. Thank you so much for letting me be on your program. This is a real treat, and come out and see us. Things are changing every day, and we'd love to have you and your viewers come out and not only witness the change, but be a part of it.
Well, we thank you for joining us today and sharing your perspective of why you are here now in Mobile at the university and what you see in the plan for the future of another great university here on the Gulf Coast. Our very special guest, Joe Bonner, the new president of South Alabama. Thanks for being on Perspectives.
Thank you.
And for more information about President Bonner's plans for the University of South Alabama, please visit his website page at southalabama.edu/departments/President's Office. Now, for additional information on the university and its programs, you can also call them at the phone number you see there on the screen. Well, coming up on Perspectives, 2 new markers have been added to the Dora Franklin Finley African American History Trail. One spotlights social change and the other an historic community in Spring Hill. We hear how federal judge Virgil Pittman, despite criticism and personal attacks, stood firm and guided Mobile into the 20th century, changing the city's form of government to allow equal representation. And Sandtown traces its beginnings to the 1840s. Free blacks, former slaves, and indigenous people built a community that is still here today. We'll hear their incredible story of Sandtown coming up. Well, please join us here next Saturday morning at 9 a.m. for Perspectives as we discuss those important issues and seek solutions. I'm Eric Reynolds. Have a great week ahead.
Thanks for watching Fox 10 News. Watch us live wherever you are on our mobile, our streaming news app, and you can also watch us on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV.